Hello, my name is Peter Parfitt and welcome to New Brick Workshop. Now, a little while ago you may have seen me making this tray. Now, it was a little bit complicated to make, but when I made it, we thought, well, it would make a super Christmas present. And I thought, well, there's quite a few people I'd like to give one of these to because I think it's quite nice. But I didn't want to have to go through the rigmarole of following all the individual steps to make this one tray. I wanted a quicker way of doing it. So in this video, I'm going to talk about mass production techniques, how to go about making 3, 5, 10 or even 30 of the same thing, so they're all the same, all built to the same quality. And the key is to try and do as many processes which are exactly the same all at once. So in other words, for example, I've just been cutting all of these pieces for the ends of the tray, and they're all cut to length, and I've cut them all at the same time. So that guarantees, because I've set this up for this process, all of these are identical, and I don't need to then set this up for that length of cut again. Now, in order to produce the shape of these ends, it's rather complicated. And in the past, I've had several goes at doing this. I've made a variety of templates, some of which haven't actually seen the light of day and they've been used for other things. This was the template I think I used to make this tray, and others have existed in the past. But the idea is to take your blank of wood and somehow produce the two important cuts. That is the oval in the middle and the shape of the top. Now let me just go back one stage to say I've made a wasteboard. That is something that will go underneath the workpiece whilst all the writering's going on, so I don't end up with lots of writer gouge marks in my track saw cutting station. And this is important for not only the reason of protecting the track saw cutting station, but it also gives me the ability to have some additional means of work holding. And with me, it's this hole here into which I've put a threaded screw. And that screws into a small hole that you make in the piece of wood, and then it sits in there nice and tightly so that I can then screw a screw in there. And I'll come to that in a second. Now there are two operations to produce this finished shape. One is cutting the oval here and the other is cutting that top curve. Now what I've done is I've taken a long time this time to work out a way of going about this to make it A, simpler, and B, more accurate. And so I've produced a drawing of a template, and the idea is that my template will be flipped about a line of symmetry, and that line of symmetry goes along a line of bench docks. Haha, so I'm introducing the track saw cutting station with all of its very accurate holes. So there's my center line for flipping it, and what I've ended up with is this template. Now the template has got a pair of very special holes, and these holes, there's one here and one here, is to take a 4mm diameter brass pin. And the idea of those brass pins is it allows my piece of stock to fit up against those pins underneath here. Now I've got to now constrain the piece of stock sideways. So I'll just turn this over. Of course my pins are fallen out. And if I were to put the pins back in, now you'll see. So there's my piece of stock. It's up against those pins, and I've got these little side pieces here which are screwed onto my template, and that now keeps my piece of stock in exactly the right place, and that's going to go in like that. Now if I turn this over, I can now very carefully, using a couple of dogs, using the holes here and here, fix this to my bench top. There's one, there's the other. so that my template is now fixed. The piece of stock is held in the correct position relative to the template. However, if you remember, we've got a pin there, side pieces here. The stock could move that way. And that's where we actually come to this screw which goes through there. And if I just put this back where it was, put my pins in. So my pins are in, my stock is held in the correct place, left to right, and now it will be held in the right place. And now I'm going to just screw this down. And that's reasonably tight, so now my piece of stock will not move, even if I take this template away and rotate it. I can now rotate the template. There's my template rotated. And if you now see, when it's rotated in this position, that's in the position to cut out this oval. And oh, look, I've got a screw in the middle. That's stopping the piece of wood in the middle of the oval cut joggling around at the very end of the cut. So there's method to my madness. So I'll just put this back in this position. And the first process for me will be to cut this curve here. And that will be using an 18mm guide bush and a 4mm cutter in my router. After I've done that, using the same guide bush and cutter, I rotate this and do this. So those two operations are done with just the need to very carefully move this from one place to another. Having done that one, I can then do the next and the next and the next. Now it's all very well doing this bit of curve here, but that's not the end of the story as far as the ends of the tray go, because we've got to put that contrasting colour wood on top, and it's got to fit perfectly. And you can see that in this tray which I made a little while ago. That join has got to be perfect. And of course we're going to be using the same template to do it. And I'm going to be using this time some maple. And the maple will be really positioned under the template using these side pieces here. And that will mean that each time I cut one of those pieces, I can then move this forward to do the next one. And so it goes on and on and on. But I've got to find some way of holding this in place. So what I'm going to do is to glue a piece on here like so, and this will stick out far enough away that I'll be able to hold this to the bench using a clamp, and the clamp will not be in the way of the router. And in case you haven't heard me describe this before, this is a piece of cheap and cheerful plastic which I bought from a company in the UK called Dunelm, and I use it just to protect my track saw cutting station from glue spillages and bits of excess varnish or whatever. So that's going on there quite nicely. Now if you're new to woodwork, you may not realise that when you're doing a bit of clamping like this, there's a risk that these two pieces will start to bow like that. And the way to overcome that is to put another clamp on from the other side. That's okay, that's fine. I can tighten that up a little bit. I'm now going to finish off all of the mass production parts, and these are the pieces which I'll be using for the sides of the tray. I've already cut out all of these pieces for the ends of the tray. I won't cut out the bases yet. I'll wait until I've done my first tray of the series so that I can use measurements from the actual finished bits of wood to cut out the base pieces, because those are very important. Now in the next video I'm going to be doing the detailed router work, which will show you exactly how to produce the blanks for the mahogany end pieces and then the rather nice finishing piece that goes on top. Many thanks for watching. Watch out for the new video. Take care. Bye-bye.